There are two types of guitar players. There are the players who are heavily influenced by all the licks they've learned, and their improvisation is kind of automatic, kind of sounds the same each time. It doesn't sound bad, but it doesn't necessarily sound fresh and new. And there is the guitar player who chooses his notes carefully, and it's maybe a more cerebral approach. His improv might change depending on the chord progression that he's playing over. Maybe not as fast because not as influenced by the fingers, but sometimes more melodic, and that type of player will excel over this kind of backing track that I was playing over where you have two different keys. And that's what we're going to study today. Grab your guitar. That's coming up. Hi, my name is David Wallerman, and welcome to this channel, which is all about helping guitar players like you find your voice on the instrument, develop it to tell your own personal musical story. Today, we're going to talk about improvisation over backing tracks that do not stay in the same key. And that can be very overwhelming, very difficult if you're not used to it, but it doesn't have to be. In order to make the most of this lesson, you need to understand what the caged system is. We're going to use that. I know it's not going to please everyone, but it's a very useful system. What is the caged system? Caged stands for C-A-G-E-D. Those 5 open chords that you usually start learning, you know, the C open, A, G, E, and D. And the thing with these chords is really interesting. They all have characteristics, obviously. That's what makes one chord different from the other. But we can use those characteristics to organize anything we play on the instrument. What are those characteristics? Well, we need to look at where the root is within these chords. Let's take a look at the C chord, for example. The C chord, the root is on the 5th string. And where does the chord happen in relation to that root? What happens on the left side, from my perspective, towards the neck of the guitar? And those are the questions we need to ask. Where's the root? Where is the chord built in relation to that root? And if you can answer those two questions, which string is the root on? Where does the musical element we're studying happening in relation to that root? Well, that will give you an indication as to which position we're using. C-A-G-E-D, 5 types of characteristics, and you can fit any musical element within that. This is not a lesson on the caged system. If you want to find a little more, I'm going to leave an annotation somewhere here. You can check that out. But for now, sit back, relax, not too much because I want you to be involved in the process, so grab your guitar too, and let's get to the close-up. The backing track we're going to use today is in G Dorian, followed by B flat Dorian. Let's take a listen here. This is G Dorian. That's the key. Here's B flat Dorian. Okay, and then we go back to G Dorian right here. And so forth. All right, so that's basically the colors we're going to play with. That's the conversation we are joining. There are 2 approaches. The first approach is to just rely on the scale positions that we are comfortable using. And let's not even talk about Dorian for now. Let's just replace it with a minor pentatonic, a minor blues scale, which we all know. We can do that because we find within a Dorian mode, we find the notes that make a minor pentatonic scale. So let's just simplify that. The principle is the same once you add more notes. So we've got G minor pentatonic followed by B flat minor pentatonic. A lot of players might be tempted to use that first position of G minor pentatonic, which is going to work. And when it comes to B flat, they find their B flat here, first position. And then back to that position. It works. It works fine, actually, and it sounds great. But anytime I'm going to switch positions like that, there's something that kind of happens in your improv naturally because you have to shift to a different position each time, and your mental makes that switch. It's very fast, but you feel it in your playing. You're kind of starting an idea in one zone of the fretboard, and then you make the switch to a different one. it's kind of like me talking to you in two different languages, and the transition from one language to the next is always going to be at the start of a new sentence. I'll pick French, for example. Let's say that G Dorian is English and B flat Dorian is French. So I'm in G Dorian right now. I'm speaking English. This is the way that we're going to do this. I'm going to speak English over G Dorian. Et d'un coup, je passe au français parce que je suis dans une nouvelle position maintenant et je commence le français. Je sais plus parler français en fait, ça fait trop longtemps. Anyways, so the transition was done at the beginning of a new key. There's a better way. Musically, what you could do, instead of switching languages or switching keys at the beginning of the sentence, you could switch in the middle of the sentence. And that'll be like me. I'm starting to speak français maintenant et je transition into English parce que je pense que c'est and so forth, right? It's kind of enmeshed like that. And musically, when it's enmeshed like that, it means that it's a little more fluid. Okay. If that didn't make sense at all, if this is the first time you're watching this channel, you're confused, stick with it. I like to think in terms of pictures and analogies, and I think it really helps. Okay, how can we apply this musically where we really transition really smoothly from one language to the other, from one key to the other? We're going to use the caged system. We're going to avoid what I call the jumpy effect. What the jumpy effect is, it's that thing when you're transitioning to the same shape but in a different zone of the fretboard. We're going to bring both of these keys to the same area of the fretboard, which is going to break, which is going to kill that jumpy effect that you have. And it's even more dramatic if both keys are really separated by a lot of intervals. Here, G and B flat are only separated by a minor third. If we had something a little more dramatic like G minor pentatonic and C minor pentatonic, you would hear that transition even more. Here's what we're going to do. Use the cage system. We need to determine a zone of the fretboard we're going to use. We're going to go the easy route. We'll use the first position of G minor pentatonic, or G Dorian if you want. And it's that zone of the fretboard right here. Anything we play is going to be in that zone of the fretboard. So for G, simple. Just play in that zone. Now when we transition to that B flat here, we need to ask the question, do we have a B flat in this zone of the fretboard? The answer is always going to be yes. It's just a matter of finding it. So we're going to go string by string, and we happen to have one right here on the 6th string, 8th fret. That's a B flat. That fits this zone of the fretboard. And this is where the caged system comes into play. We remember those characteristics we mentioned earlier? Well, where's the root? Well, we just said it's on the 6th string. Where do we need that B flat position to happen in relation to that root in order to stick to that zone of the fretboard? Well, that way, to the left, towards the neck. And that position, if we look at the C, A, G, E, D chords, which of these chords fit that characteristic? It's going to be the G chord, because if you look at your open G, you have the root on the low E string, and the chord happens on the left side. Root on 6th string, left side. For B flat minor pentatonic, it's the 5th position. Now these two positions, first position of G minor pentatonic and 5th position of B flat minor pentatonic, fit the same area of the fretboard, which is going to allow me to smoothly transition from one key to the next, from one language to the next within the same sentence. In other words, I can start a lick in the first position, an idea, develop that, and finish it in the next, resulting in something a lot more melodic, a lot more focused, as opposed to the jumpy type of improv that we have. Let me play a little bit here using the same zone of the fretboard. Starting with the first position of G minor pentatonic. And start an idea here and end it in the next. Right? It sounds a lot more focused than what I call the jumpy effect, which I'll demonstrate down now, using the same shape. That's G. And starting a new idea in the next position. It's not as smooth as this. You can get the backing track that we used in this lesson and the charts for free. All you need to do is visit the link below, enter your best email address, and I'll be sending you those right away via email. And if you liked this lesson, you should check out my visual track method, which is a collection of 30 backing tracks, exactly like the one we covered here today. And you're going to get some charts for each of the backing tracks so that you can explore this context with a lot of different types of backing tracks. And they're very focused on this particular technique. You should check it out. Again, link is below. Thanks for watching this video. If this was your first visit on my channel, I would love for you guys to subscribe because I have at least 3 videos like this one coming every single week, helping guitar players like you find your voice, develop it on your instrument, because nobody can play the way you play on the guitar. I really believe that. Thanks so much for watching this. I'll see you next time.